thank you very much for joining us for this twilight session. We have been working together all day, students and staff, on looking at ways to have effective conversations regarding different bullying scenarios, and we brought in somebody who is an expert, Mr. Jackson, to help us with different scenarios and to lead the workshop with all of you today, because at some point or other you will be joining us. Bill. So I would like you to put your hands together, please, and welcome Kim Jackson, who will be leading the session.
Thank you. As I said, we've been working all day on applied theatre techniques, essentially. And to a certain extent, that's a kind of posh way of saying that we've been throwing together a few scenarios and running some kind of drama exercises and techniques to be able to really apply those techniques, those theatre techniques, to what is or can be a kind of difficult area. And we've tried to concentrate on effective conversations, and that's what we've concentrated on, the conversations. So I'm not here at all in any way to talk about policies or training or other techniques that go beyond just that micromanaging of conversations. One of the alternative titles to that was about intervention and when to intervene and how to intervene, because it was recognised that there are issues sometimes around how and when those interventions can take place and what kind of conversations can happen at that moment of intervention. So they're the areas that we're working around. I mean, it's been very exciting for me to come into a centre and that's my assessor's hat on there, come into a centre and work with staff and students together. And that's been a really interesting, hasn't it, and effective way of working across the day. And I think you'll see that that's come up with some brilliant results. Applied theatre techniques, which I'll just give a little brief chat about, not very long, only a couple of seconds, because I want to get into the scenario. Applied theatre techniques and forum theatre, they're not my invention and not the invention of people that you might see in theatre companies going around doing it now. Those were invented by someone called Boyle, and they go back many, many years. They started in South America with liberation politics. He took those techniques through therapy, personal therapy, drama therapy, and then into the corporate world. And a lot of my work now is in places like Rolls-Royce or Balfour Beatty or places like that where these techniques are used in a direct way. What's the advantage of it? The advantage of using drama and theatre is that you suspend your disbelief, you become more involved with the action more quickly, and decisions are made on a much more emotional and intellectual basis. So we get to the heart of the matter very quickly. All you have to do, and I'm not going to ask you to take part in the drama in a way that you might, well, I don't know. Sometimes I come into a room and think, you know what, this looks like the kind of group that really want to get up and move and do the kind of drama exercises that they haven't done for 30 or 40 years maybe, or 10 or 15. You know, so at some point I might ask you to be as small as a mouse or as big as a tree, all right? No, okay, I won't. But what I will ask you to do is suspend your disbelief. I'm going to show you a scenario, they're going to show you a scenario, my brilliant actors here, that's based in a school not unlike this one. It's not this school, it's a replication of issues, okay? I want you to detach yourself and think about the people that you're looking at today in a different kind of way. They're not the people you know, they're people that we're looking at from a different school that have got very similar issues to you. We're replicating that situation. You're suspending your disbelief. Can I have that involvement from you? Is that a buy-in situation? Thank you very much. I'm not going to talk too much because I'm going to be asking you to do various exercises in your rows and with the person next to you, just chatting exercises as we go through the hour or so, or hour and 20 we've got now, haven't we? Okay, as we go through that. But the first thing I want you to do is to look at a scenario that we've worked on during today. That's the bottom line. That's the first stage of what we're going to do. I'm going to be building incrementally information, involvement as we go through the session. The first stage is for you to look at the scenario, listen to what they're saying, take in everything about it, the movement, the action. We've kind of worked very carefully on body language and all sorts of aspects of what's going on in this classroom. Okay? So I want you to focus in on particular moments in the way that you might do any soap opera or anything on TV or in the theatre. Okay. So, if the actors would like to take up their frozen positions, So we watch the scenario, that's the first stage. And then we go into the second stage where I ask you for information about what it is that you've just seen and where we begin to amend maybe the behaviours of the people that are in the scenario. Okay? Thank you. Action.
Right, come on, Year 11. Assignments, I've given you back your assignments, I've marked them, I've annotated them. Some really important lessons today. I've given you 2 lessons to get these assignments done. And I'm going to take them back in at the end of today's lesson. Okay, you're in Year 11, it's GCSE year. I'm going to send some of this work off to the moderator. It's got to be good quality work. So you've had half an hour of today's lesson. You need to be really cracking on it. I'm talking about cracking on. Have you seen Tom? Haven't you seen Tom?
I saw it. It was a bit tight.
Right.
Who's practicing his tie job?
What's happened? Somebody's nicked his tie and tied it like well high up a tree. So it's right. Get it.
Look, to be honest,
Seriously,
Take a look at
it's so funny.
why is his tie? Right, put your phone away. Put your phone away. Alison, put your phone away, please. Put your phone away.
Sorry.
Okay, right, like I said to you, we've had half an hour, we've only got half an hour left. I'm taking these in at the end, we've got to get cracking now, please. Tom, hurry up. Half an hour, yeah? Half an hour late to the lesson. Can you just explain to me quickly why you're half an hour late to a lesson?
Student support should have emailed you.
Sorry, Tom, speak up, please.
Student support should have emailed you.
Right, to be honest, listen, Tom, I'm not interested really. What goes on outside the class doesn't really bother me. What I'm interested in is your assignment. I can see you've got it there. I've annotated it for you, okay? So what you need to do now is just read what I've got on those annotations and make sure you make the changes. I'm taking it back in at the end of half an hour.
Sir, can we type this up?
You need to get cracking on with your work, please. Alice, get cracking on with your work, please. Right, to be fair, he's been in the classroom 2 minutes. He's got more work than most of you lot have done in 30 minutes.
You should change your name to Tyler.
Sir,
Yes.
I'm well excited. Do you know what I'm having for tea?
No.
It's my favourite. I'm having tie.
Right, I'll tell you what. Right, listen carefully, okay? What I'm going to say is the next comment that's made, the next silly comment that's made, I'll move that person to the back of the room. From that point there, it's to a sixth form classroom next door. So get your pens out, get working. You know exactly what you need to be doing. So take a leaf out of this book, please. Get on with it. Freddie, get on with your work.
It's the Iron Tiger.
Whoa. Adrian. Charlie, you okay? Charlie, you alright? You okay? Right, pick your stuff up. Tom. Can you just explain to me why you're knocking a chair into his legs?
Yeah, come on, Tom, explain yourself.
Tom, can you just explain to me why you come into this room 30 minutes late and now you're knocking a chair, disrupting all these other people? You've lost your tongue, Tom. Why are you 30 minutes late and now you're disrupting other members of the group?
Breeze. Right, okay. Right, the first stage of that, you've got information in the scenario. We're going to test how much of that was taken in and where we can move forward with that. First of all, though, I want to do what we call in the trade some thought tracking. So we're going to imagine that there's a bubble above their head. There's like a cartoon bubble, you know, you get those in the comics and stuff like that. And I want you to articulate what you think is going on in their heads. To do this, you might need to do it in the first person, like I feel this, I feel that, I feel whatever you feel. Okay? So let's start. We've got 2 characters here. We've got Tom and we've got James, the teacher. Let's start with James. Thought bubble above his head. What's he thinking? How does he feel? What's going on in his head? He wants to get the coursework sorted? He's frustrated. Okay, it's not going to plan. Okay, I'm frustrated. Yep.
It's just lack of control.
Lack of control as well. Okay, fine. All right, that's built into the frustration.
Kind of wants to sort it right now.
Right. That's what he wants right now. This sorted. Yep, that's good. Yep. Anything else?
I think he feels a bit uncomfortable because I think he knows that there's something going on in the room and he's not prepared.
Okay. So there's stuff that he doesn't know about, actually. That's part of that frustration that we were talking that came up earlier. That's fine. Anything else above there? How does he actually, anything he feel at this moment? Let's get a bit nitty-gritty about his feelings, about what it is that's actually in the pit of his stomach, let's put it that way. So maybe the bubble ought to be there rather than above his head, but Yep.
He might feel a bit of regret because basically he encouraged them almost to be taking the out.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fine. In that moment, actually, it's quite encapsulated that he might be regretting some of the stuff that he did earlier in there. That's fine. We're going to think about that later. So that's a good point. Yeah.
Well, you might just be feeling a bit annoyed. Someone's had, obviously there's been some messing around outside the classroom and that's being dragged into his lesson. It's causing issues in his lesson.
It might be very, absolutely. That's part of that frustration. It's very straightforward annoyance and anger that actually some stuff outside the classroom is coming into here and disrupting what he's trying to do. I mean, he's stating that. That's what he's actually, that's his presenting, so to speak. That's what he's presenting, that he wants to get on with the work. Okay? Good. Any other issues that you can shout them out. I'm not worried about, it's not...
He might have not been very vigilant because the interaction between him and Tom speaks loud.
Yeah, okay, fine. Do you think that's another thing about the regret, about the frustration, something that he may have missed earlier? Okay, okay. Yep.
So maybe he knows that there's something going on, but he doesn't know how to approach it. He's kind of trying to push it away.
Okay. How does that make him feel?
Inadequate.
Inadequate. Okay. That he feels inadequate. Yeah? Yeah. I mean, in a way, that's what I'm kind of trying to get into that thought bubble at the moment. Those kind of feelings of inadequacy, frustration, anger, regret, those things that are happening all at that moment, that might be getting in the way, actually, of having one of these effective conversations that we might need to generate at some point. Okay, good. Thank you. Let's have a look at Tom. Thought bubble above his head. Thinking what? Don't cry, don't cry, yeah. Fine, good, yeah.
He's not being listened to.
Not being listened to? Sorry?
He thinks he hates his teacher as much as he hates everybody else.
Fine, everybody in the room, absolutely. Everybody in the room he hates at that moment, yeah?
It's not my fault. Why am I getting told off?
Yeah, okay, it's not my fault. I'm in the middle of something I don't control.
He's feeling isolated.
He's feeling isolated. He certainly is feeling isolated.
He's probably feeling a sense of unfairness.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfairness, isolation, everything, those kind of mix together, yeah?
I really don't want this to be an issue. There's been an email sent through and now I'm sent through attention when it's actually the last thing I want.
Yeah, I don't want this to be an issue, actually. I mean, to a certain extent, that touches on earlier what somebody said about maybe the regrets that are going on in James' head, because there was a point where he made it an issue. Yeah? There was another hand, yeah? Yeah, embarrassment, absolutely. In fact, there's common knowledge now, because of the way this has been managed. Yeah.
Why can't the teacher see what's going on?
Why can't the teacher see what's going on? I think it must be that kind of common frustration, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Almost like you should know better, but you made it worse.
Yeah, 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 good. You should know better, but you've made it worse. Yeah. Yep. Lonely. Lonely, isolated, frustrated, in the middle of this, yeah, embarrassed. All those things are kind of crucial to those feelings at that particular time. Yeah. Anything else you want to add to that? That's, yep.
Probably getting fed up about being praised.
Good point. Good point. I mean, there are different ways of drawing attention to him. You know, and one of them has been the praising of him at that point that he's actually got more work done. So that, that again goes into the mix. It's a very complex situation, this, to a certain extent. You know, there are things that are complex, especially when we start thinking about what's going on in their minds, pit of their stomach. Okay, fine. Any other issue? He does feel let down, yeah. I mean, I'm saying that's a fact. The next section is where I'm trying to get things that we might not know, but I'm kind of being a bit presumptuous there.
His head just could be in a spin for a variety of other issues that he's maybe got a real heavy going situation going on that maybe the school aren't aware about at that moment.
Yeah, that's good. That kind of takes us to the next stage, actually, because what I want to explore, just for 5 or 6 minutes before we go on to the next stage of the action here, is that sense of what do we know? Okay, so I'll let the actors go. Thank you very much. Big round of applause. This is what I do in classrooms after the event, clearing everything up. Okay. Just amongst yourselves, we're going to just have a quick chat. What do we know? And when I mean, what do we know, it's like the facts of the situation. It's like be as straightforward with what we know as possible, really. You know, they're students, that's staff. I mean, literally, what do we know about the situation? Conversely, and much more difficult, I suppose, is, okay, what don't we know? I know it's a really difficult question to say, isn't it? There's lots of things we don't know, but what don't we know about this situation that might have impact on it? We've just touched on one at the back there, which was about, we don't exactly know the context of of why he's come into the room and why there's been this context. We know about the tie, but there's lots of other things we don't know. Don't laugh about the tie. No, you're not. Right? But what do we suspect? What do we suspect? What do we suspect is going on? That's the kind of speculation that we're going to test in when we talk more directly to the performers, when we talk more to those characters. So know, don't know, suspect. Quick chat, and then we'll use that information on the next stage. Thank you. Thank you. I have to judge, when that goes over into coming out of a busy day and chatting about something else, and also balance that with, they've got to the end of that discussion, they've got to it quite quickly, so that's fine. What do we know?
We know that he was late to the lesson.
We know that Tom was late to the lesson. Yep. He's been student support. Yep. About?
I said apparently.
Apparently.
Apparently. He says.
Okay, he said, well, good. That we know he says he's been to student support. That's what we know. Because the email didn't turn up. Apparently.
The teacher didn't check the email to see if the email was there.
Okay, that's another fact. That's another what we know. Okay, the teacher didn't check. Something around the email that we think we know. We know there was a photograph taken because we've got the photographic evidence for that. We've got the phone. We know it involved a tie.
We know that the teacher kind of bought into it because he was prepared to look at the photograph on the phone.
Do we know that? I'm just kind of pushing the knowledge.
Well, he did. He looked at it.
Okay.
And then told him to...
But buy into it. That's what I'm challenging about what we know about what he was doing.
He didn't deal with it. He looked at it.
He didn't deal with it.
He thought, yeah, right, that's funny, but I'm
Okay.
teaching here, so I better not.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit... There's a few semantics I know that I'm doing there, but I'm just trying to push this. Okay, so he didn't deal with that. What else do we know?
We know that Tom sat on his own.
Tom sat on his own. We know that.
He drew attention to that, in fact, it was half an hour late to the lesson.
He did draw attention to the half an hour thing. Yeah, yeah. I like this. It's like a test. How much were we watching?
We know that the first half of the lesson hadn't gone the way the teacher planned.
Okay, because we've got to this point and he was still... Yeah, okay, I'm going to put that on between the grey area between the know and the don't know. Okay. We kind of segue over to the don't know. Yep.
Well, we know that the majority of the students in the class are obviously fully
Do we know that?
in that, from what we've seen, in those few minutes.
Quite a lot of them made comments.
In that circumstance, I'm not saying it's outside of that lesson.
Okay.
At that point, people don't know.
Okay. All right. Fine. Okay. We know there is some evidence of bullying taking place. I mean, I think that's as much as we get, in the context, in the circumstances that we find ourselves in. Okay, fine. A qualification there, which is quite important qualifications when it comes to what we actually know, because that's what we have to deal with at some point. Anything else we know?
He clearly didn't feel or look happy or relaxed and joining.
Tom did. I think that's something we know from the observation that we made.
When Tom sat down and got on with his work, teacher kept praising him, and Tom's eyes were going up and down, so he didn't really want that praise.
He didn't want that praise. Okay.
And the naughty little people out there were going.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Okay. Fine. I'll take that as knowledge. There's some kind of strong evidence for that. You can see the way I'm kind of trying to get a kind of grey area between not knowing and don't know, because I think that's quite important. Because sometimes there are things that we kind of take for granted that may not be the case. And I'm not going to make an apology for this micromanaging. This is what this session's about. Micromanaging a very tight situation. What don't we know? What do we not know? What don't we know? What don't we know?
We don't know who took the photograph, so we don't know if it's been sent around, and Alva's happened to have the photograph on the phone, or whether she took it.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't know how far that photo's gone. We did discuss earlier about having some kind of projection that goes on with that, actually, but it got a bit technical, and we thought it's much better just to not have that knowledge, just to not know where that's gone to. And it is important having that element of...
gone around for the student body already.
It could have been. It could have done, yeah, sorry.
You don't know with personal circumstances that both come to that event with, from home or,
Good. Yeah, we might be able to test that in a moment because you've got an opportunity to ask them questions about their personal circumstances.
We don't know who's dying. It could be someone in the class, could be someone who's not there, who's done the actual.
We don't know it yet, absolutely. We don't know about that. We've got no clear evidence about that.
We don't know if it's a one-off incident or there's a trend
Or is a trend.
behaviour for him.
Yep. There's lots we don't know. Yep.
Given the level of distraction in the room, we don't know whether the student's behaviour is actually to take away from the fact that they're concerned and worried about the assessment they've got or they don't.
Yeah.
Take a bit of a way out.
Yep. Okay, good. That's...
You don't actually know if the students really understand how much they're hurting the student, whether he's just teasing, or whether it has a deeper effect.
Okay, so we don't know the level that that's actually gone to at this stage, yeah?
We don't know whether some of the students are actually just ganging up on Tom or being focused on themselves. The two people in the back row were kicking the chairs and assisting the other people in the middle.
Right. Okay. So the focus on Tom also is a distractor from other things that might be going on around, or Okay. That's quite a complex kind of way of looking at that scene actually, because it may be that we've set up all sorts of other issues within there, and there will be other issues, won't there, in the real world about those relationships. Yeah. Good. Yeah.
We don't know anything about the conversation that allegedly took place at student support.
No, we don't. There's a lot we don't know about the student support stuff and about the involvement of them and the email and where Tom's been, and there's lots of stuff that we need to iron out at this moment.
Yeah, I was just going to say we don't know really Tom's history in terms of is he always late for lessons? Is he constantly absent? Does he lie all the time?
Yeah, he might be able to give us some information on that. But, it depends on the kind of questions you ask him and whether that actually comes forward. The information or not. But
we don't actually know all the details of the incident. We don't. We know it was about time. We know he was late, but has he been physically pushed around? All those sorts of things. I have no idea.
Absolutely. There's those things again we don't know, and those things you might need to test. What do we suspect?
We don't know whether the class are doing something in retaliation for something that he's done himself.
That makes it even more complicated, does it, to a certain extent? So there's information that we need, actually. But what do we suspect?
Someone stole his tie without a trick.
Yeah. Straightforward kind of stuff. Charlie did it. Or that's what we suspect. Sorry? We suspect it's not a one-off incident.
I might be watching too many dramas, but I want to ask him about the significance of the tie.
Right.
Is it just a tie? Is it a bit of a
Okay. We suspect there's something more significant about the tie. All right, fine. Don't preempt anything by making comments to the audience. Can I keep it fairly bland? What else do we suspect? Yeah, they all have knowledge of that. So there's the commonality of knowledge amongst them, and we don't know how widespread that is, but it seems to be pretty widespread. Right, okay. We suspect that there are issues outside of the classroom, yeah. Yep.
We suspect that this teacher hasn't dealt with emotional things like this before.
Okay, that's an interesting one. We suspect that this teacher, James, has not dealt with these incidents, or incidents like this before. Okay.
We suspect that the students are confident the teacher doesn't know how to deal with it.
Okay, fine. And that lends itself to the belief or the suspicion that the students are exploiting that. Yeah? Okay.
One or two of the students in the class are now feeling uncomfortable about where this is going.
Okay, good. That's brilliant. If they've picked that up from the rest of the group, that's fine. That's coming out from them. Good.
I suspect that it might carry on because the teacher didn't know how to deal with it.
I think almost undoubtedly it will, because I don't think we've dealt with that, and that maybe it's one of the things we might need to look at now about how that is dealt with. Okay? Any other suspicions? Yeah.
From the way the students are behaving, it's almost like this is a behaviour that has happened before.
Yeah.
That they're used to showing comments, they're used to laughing and joking. It seems to be that they're used to that behaviour.
Yeah, they're used to that behaviour. Okay, that's fine. In that particular circumstance. Good. What we have, sorry.
From the scene, the way you set it up, I suspect that Freddie and Miss Tennant are the leaders of the bullying on.
There could be. There might be. That you might open up a suspicion that there might be other people involved in this. That's a good point. There might be other people involved. What we're opening up here is an opportunity to really exploit something in a safe environment that you're not normally able to manage in this kind of way. To take a moment and to kind of really interrogate it and micromanage the situation to the extent where we might be able to change people's behaviours and do it in a way that's not always possible in the real world. But maybe what the aim is to make sure that we have those lessons by the end of this session. What I kind of emphasise before we go into the next section that this is an environment where you might be able to ask questions or kind of voice opinions that are within the room and kind of safe, and where you are exploiting this situation to do some modelling or the experimentation about how you might want to deal with that situation. What I'm saying is, don't think that you've got to give the right answer all the time about what we should do in that situation, because it's not going to be that easy. You know, and I'm taking for granted that you know that, but sometimes you get in a room with a crowd of workers in any school or body, and they kind of get a bit fearful about saying the right thing or thinking they've got to come up with a solution that works. That's not the case. It's about exploring and modelling something that may work, or experimenting with a replication of the real world. That's what it's about. Okay. What I'm going to do is invite the protagonists, two of them, James and Tom, for you to question them. And I'm going to give a limited timescale for that. There's going to be 5 minutes or so, very limited in terms of the questions that you might want to ask them. You might, for a couple of minutes, want to have a quick chat with the person next to you about what would be the relevant questions. What would be the right kind of questions to ask somebody in that circumstance? And as I've said earlier, that might be questions that you wouldn't normally ask. It might be about personal circumstances. It might be about, you know, stuff that you think is relevant that needs to come out because it's important to this particular moment in this scenario. Okay? But just have a quick chat with the person next to you about what I would ask, what I need to ask, so that I know more and suspect less. Okay? Just a couple of minutes for that chat. Thank you. Okay, thank you. All right, so you've had an opportunity to. There's a few rules to this. The characters, James and Tom, will be in character. You will ask them questions, but they might choose to answer in the way that they choose to answer, or they might not answer, or they might go in different directions. It's entirely up to them. The important thing is about, as I said earlier, is the suspension of disbelief. These are the characters that you saw in the scenario. And that's the way that they're going to respond to any question you have. So you might not always get the response that you expect. You might, but it depends. Having said that, this is not an exercise in how you frame questions. I'm not looking for you to, to give the right kind of open question. It's not a coaching course. It's not about that. It's not been an acting course for them. It's just been about, working in a community to bring together ideas about effective communications. That's what it's been about. I'm just warning you, they might not answer in the way that you expect. I'll keep a control over that because I think it's really important from my position to make sure that there is some kind of support for them. Okay? Just to make sure that I can always intervene as well if I think that it's going too far in a particular direction. You're not there to give them advice yet. You're not there to give James advice about how to behave. You're there to ask questions to get a bit more information based on what we know so far. Okay. Right. We'll start with Tom, I think. I'll just go and find him. Tom, is this okay? You're feeling like that now? Right. I've mentioned earlier while we were having a discussion about you meeting some people that might be doing some training. Is that okay? Yep, you're able to do that. Yep, fine, good. Okay. Do you want to sit here? Or is that, I'll tell you what, if you can sit there next to the table, that's fine. And I'd just like to tell you that I've, anything that you feel like not answering, that's fine. And if there's anything that I think is inappropriate, then I'll stop that question. Is that okay? Good. Any questions for Tom? Yep.
Tom, how are you feeling at the moment?
Fine.
Good.
What happened in student support?
Just want to see this and chat it out. It's okay.
Tom, would you please tell us a little bit about what happened before you
What?
went to student support? What happened is
Before the lesson, before student support.
Before student support.
Could you tell us a little bit about what happened to you?
Just out in the field, and people just messing around. Someone took a tie and tied it on a tree.
Was it a big deal?
Does that kind of thing happen a lot, or is this just the first time?
Well, yeah.
Who was with you at the time, Uncle, of your friend?
John, David, there was a crowd of us.
All your friends?
Yeah, yeah.
Not just acquaintances? Yep. Yep.
Was there anybody in the classroom that took the tile? Ask him.
Tom, would you find it easy to write it down with all the pictures instead of talk?
Any other probing questions? Yep.
So what would you like to happen as a result? What's happened? How do we go forward? What would you like us to do?
It's no big deal, is it?
Well, it is, because you can see quite